Hi, I'm Therese Main.
Hi, I'm Jesse Gabel.
Together, we are Main and Gabel Afternoons on Family Life. Now, we talk about a lot of things on our radio show, but there are some topics we wouldn't dare to delve into. And that's why we have this podcast. Can't say that on Christian radio.
So you will not hear 21 Pilots played on Family Life. They're not an outwardly Christian band. That's not a label that they have. But I have been a fan of their music for a long time. I grew up listening to them. I was introduced to them during the days of Ride and Stressed Out, which almost everybody on the planet, I think.
I know those songs even.
Therese even knows those songs. And especially their oldest music and their newest music talks very plainly at times about Christ and the Christian faith and struggles with doubt and struggles finding and knowing God. And I think there's something really, really valuable to that, because I think you can worship God in a setting that is not necessarily typical what you think of as Christian music. I was at a 21 Pilots concert recently with my wife and a couple of friends, and there's a song that they always play called Trees. And it's about searching for God. Where are you? You're silent in the trees, and I want to know you. I want to see you. Can you talk to me? And it was so interesting being at that concert, and there are thousands of people there, most of them not Christians probably, singing this song about wanting to know God and wanting to see him and feel him. How many people know what they're really saying there? It was almost like being at a worship concert without being at a worship concert. And I think there's something really valuable to that, but at the same time, obviously Christian music has its place.
I think there is a theme that goes through all music that you'll see over and over and over again, and that theme is love. I mean, there are thousands of love songs that have been written. And when it comes to the greatest love of all, not the Whitney Houston song, but maybe, you can't go higher than Jesus, right? The love Jesus has for us is the most profound love of all. It's funny because Megan Woods opens up with a Whitney Houston song in her set on the Let It Begin tour, you know, and I think it's, I have nothing if I don't have you, you know, and it's like, well, yeah, that could be about Jesus, or it could be about a boyfriend. So I think the reason that there is so much music that is not under the genre label of Christian, that is Christian in nature, is that number one, every human being is born with a God-shaped hole in their hearts.
Yes. Yeah.
We are made in the image of Christ. Whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, you still are made in the image of Christ. End of story, period. So there is something inherently that we crave that only God can fill. And I think that a lot of songwriters and their musings kind of are discovering that.
Yeah.
And write about it because it's something that's deep in their soul, and it'll manifest in songs that could be about God. And then I think that there are instances with bands like 21 Pilots who I believe are Christians. They're music artists who are Christians versus Christian music artists, which are Christians who make Christian music or music for Christian radio. And then I think that you also have Christian artists who are Christians who make music that's not Christian in theme. And that's where it gets a little sticky at Christian radio, because there are some stations will go, oh, well, this is a primarily Christian artist. We should play the song, even if the song's not really about Jesus, like it could maybe kind of be. And at Family Life, we tend to hold a little bit more to the other side, which is like, I got to know that this song is about Jesus before it's going to make it on the radio. So there are a lot of songs that do kind of tiptoe into that realm. I remember when I was in mainstream radio before I came to Family Life, there's a song by Coldplay that came out in like 2008, Viva La Vida, that has a lot of references. And people said it's really about Jesus and kind of the ascent of Jesus and the crucifixion of Jesus. It says, like, for some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name, you know, and I mean, it just goes through all of these different things that are sort of hearkening to Holy Week, basically. Now, would I consider that a Christian song? No, but there's definitely some things in it where it kind of go, okay, are you are you talking about Jesus in this song?
Yeah. What do you think? I guess this is kind of an open question. What do you think about content, whether it's music or whether it's a movie or a book, anything, that is not expressly Christian, but it is written by Christians and it is targeting a secular audience with the gospel? Because I think that sometimes what can make Christian movies or Christian music feel a little like
cheesy,
repulsive and cheesy, a little bit cheesy. Let's be real.
Okay, yeah.
Especially to people who aren't Christians, is because it's kind of cliquey.
Sure.
It's written by Christians for Christians, as opposed to something that's written by Christians for everyone else.
Believe it or not, this might be shocking to you. I have some strong opinions on this. I believe that what Christians create should be better, far superior than what the world creates.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
we serve the creative God.
Right. Why are we so behind? Something interesting happened in Hollywood. You had movies like The Ten Commandments that were not only spiritual in nature, but were cinematic masterpieces.
Right.
I mean, movies that would be up for Oscar awards, you know. And then in the 60s and 70s, with kind of the freedom of expression movement that went through the nation with hippies, Christians became so locked down that it was like going to the movies is evil. So of course, making movies was evil, and Christian film just ceased. Secular film continued to grow and change. And then you sort of had this movement back into, I don't know, the early 2000s, where you began to see guys like the Kendrick brothers, you know, start to make these movies, and Lionsgate began producing more films. And now I think we're getting to a point where there's some good Christian movies that come out, you know, where I would say even people who are not believers would go, yeah, that movie was pretty good. Part of the reason why I think it's so cheesy is that we lost a lot of years. We lost a lot of years when technology was growing and changing in the cinema arts. And I think the same sort of thing even happens in the visual arts. It used to be, if you wanted to see good art, you would go to the church. The church is where all the good art was. And then it was like the world kind of perverted art, and a lot of Christians pulled out of the medium and said, oh, well, then we're not going to be a part of the art scene because the art scene is tainted, you know? And it's like, what if we could put the best creative minds back into the church? You know, the best dance, the best theater, the best physical graphic arts, the best fine arts, the best music, best cinema. If all of that became for the gospel again, wow, it would be really something. And I think a lot of that is the heart you see behind things like Performing Arts at Family Life or behind Kingdom Bound. You know, they're really about expressing the gospel through the arts and doing it well. So it's always kind of my hope and my prayer that like Christians would keep trying and get over the hurdle of it might be cheesy, because also if you keep at it, it might be great.
And that doesn't mean to, copy what the world is doing. There were a couple movies that came out, I think in like the 2010s, that were very clearly copies of like action movies of the day. But it's a pastor living in the end times or something like that. It's like, let's do what the secular world is doing, but let's put a Jesus spin on it. That's not good art. That wouldn't be good art if it was a secular movie copying a secular movie. So I think in order to kind of reclaim art the way you're talking about as Christians, and many are doing this, we have to put in work. Good storytelling, good songwriting. It doesn't mean that it has to be triple dunked in Jesus to the point where anybody who's not a Christian can't digest it. It means that it has to be real and it has to be done well. And I think that believers, followers of the creative God, are the best suited to do that.
I think there are a lot of questions, too, in what does a Christian artist look like? 21 Pilots, very mainstream. I'm sure that at the concert you went to, there were a lot of people who would say, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. There were probably a lot of people that were like, And I don't really have thoughts about this. And I would say maybe for my generation, that would be U2. The band U2 is like,
Oh,
yes,
yeah, I've never heard of them.
Christian. Are you kidding me?
I said, oh, yeah, as if I had heard of them.
Oh.
You too?
You've never heard of the band U2? U2?
I'm dating myself here, I guess. I was homeschooled.
Where the Streets Have No Name. Wow. Okay, the lead singer Bono.
He was in Inside Out, right? He was the... Bono.
No, that's Bing Bong, first of all.
Okay.
And
Well, my bad.
Disney is a whole nother episode, okay? So, no, so I think for my generation, it would be the band U2. And there was definitely Christian theming in their songs. And the lead singer would, say he is a Christian, but you would never play a U2 song on Christian radio. And I think that is another kind of element to all of this. Like, can the Christian art be out there but not put in a Christian realm? A Christian music festival probably wouldn't bring in a band that identifies primarily as secular, even if the members of the band are Christian and they write songs that have some Christian undertones in them.
Right.
A Christian radio station might not be as quick to play a song like, I don't know, Carrie Underwood professes to be a Christian, sings worship, at her church, came out with a song called Jesus Takes the Wheel. There's not a lot of Christian radio stations playing that song, but it did okay at mainstream country radio. And then you have weird songs like I Can Only Imagine from Mercy Me that actually did so well in mainstream radio, which made no sense at all. But also was a huge song at Christian radio. And obviously Mercy Me has continued as a, quote, Christian band. But once in a while, they just make fun songs on their albums that aren't necessarily about Jesus. It doesn't mean that they're less of a Christian band, but those songs in particular, like, we wouldn't play it at Family Life.
Yeah. So make good songs about Jesus, make good songs about love, make good stuff in general, Christians and non-Christians?
I think if the world could see people who are very open about being Christians doing things well, it would do a lot to move the gospel forward. If they saw us living well, creating well, giving well, they would think more of our Savior.
Can't say that on Christian radio. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, you could subscribe, maybe. And if you really liked it, you could always say so by making a gift to Family Life, the ministry this podcast is a part of. Just go to familylife.org and find out more about what we do.
Our producer is Josh Allen. How could we ever thank you enough? Did you know that Family Life offers a variety of podcasts? Get up to date with Family Life news, including the Noon Report and the 5 o'clock reports, or enjoy some family time with Family Life Kids. There's If That Makes Sense, a conversation for Christians in their 20s. They're all free and on demand at familylife.org/podcast.